I'm Andy. Been in the police service in Northern Ireland for 20 years now, coming next month. Seen a wide variety of changes in that time, going from patrolling with the army right through to wearing high-vis jackets and dealing with more community-based issues. I got involved with the Ethnic Minority Police Association in Northern Ireland around 3 to 4 years ago, and within a short period got elected onto the cabinet of the National Black Police Association. The National Black Police Association is the umbrella organisation for all of the black and ethnic minority police associations throughout the UK. Seek to just keep raising the agenda, keep police services focused on the issues that are affecting black, Asian, minority ethnic communities, and what we can do to actually bridge the gap between some of those more marginalised and what we would term as hard to reach communities. I personally don't believe that there's any community that's hard to reach. It's just a matter of finding a way of getting in there, and I think a lot of the times through our engagement in Belfast and across the water here in England and Wales, that the communities are looking to engage with police, and it's just a matter of us actually coming forward, stepping up and saying that we are actually here. A lot of our engagement barriers are usually formed around the uniform, so our traditional way of engaging, going to schools and youth clubs, sitting at the front of a group, sort of preaching almost and lecturing around the why you shouldn't take drugs, why you shouldn't carry knives, which is all very important messages to get, but for a lot of young people to switch off whenever we're standing there in uniform. What I did after I got elected onto the cabinet of the National Black Police Association, I went out and engaged with our ethnic minority communities in Belfast themselves, just to find out what the issues were locally and how I could use my position to try and alleviate some of their concerns and issues. Some of the issues that they had initially told me about was around engagement with the police service. There's a number of barriers that there are existing in Northern Ireland that maybe don't exist in the rest of the UK. Some of those were around, they had told me that for a number of years they were trying to get a football tournament up and running, I think for 6 or 7 years, and for one reason or another it just hadn't landed. I had heard about Kickoff at 3 then at the MBPA conference in Chester in 2017. Michael Wallace had founded Kickoff at 3 along with Ashley Levian. Michael is a Metropolitan Police Officer, Ashley is a community worker in London. They discussed just how they'd use sport and football in particular to get into communities and what they did whenever they were in. It wasn't just about having a football tournament, it was about using sport and football to get into the communities, and then it was about delivering messages and speaking to the young people on a one-to-one basis while they were there. Really loved the concept, give him a ring. His enthusiasm was unbelievable to begin with. Anybody that sees Michael and Kickoff at 3 on Twitter will see how relentless he can be. Passionate, carries on morning, noon and night, literally. But that is really driven, his passion has driven it forward and made sure that it's kept to his blueprint around that grassroots engagement. For ourselves then, we held our first tournament in an area in Belfast that was well known for race hate crime in particular. Britain First at that stage had tried to develop a stronghold in Belfast. There were a number of factors making Belfast really appealing for them, one of which was political opinion in Northern Ireland is protected where it isn't in the rest of the UK, and as well as that we don't have just as robust hate crime legislation as the rest of the UK. So we brought the first tournament May 2017, played it in this particular area, brought local communities together along with the ethnic minority communities. Around 11 teams played from across Northern Ireland, Belfast, down in the Dungannon, Portadown, and a team even brought up from Garda Síochána in Dublin, an Afro-Caribbean team, which was really good from a number of perspectives. For one, it strengthened the relationship between the PSNI and Garda Síochána, but it also, for that Afro-Caribbean team, the ethnic minority communities in Northern Ireland are actually reasonably small. The last census, it was 1.8% of the population, which equates to around between 30 and 40,000 people. So building relationships with other communities just across the border in Dublin really helped both communities feel just a little bit more empowered, and that they weren't just as alone as maybe they felt at different times. The Guards as well were coming up, obviously given the history of Northern Ireland. there was an area that was still involved in paramilitarism. There were a number of murals on the way into the ground. The guards had commented that they generally wouldn't have been allowed in that particular area, and we're really happy that we were. The event itself played off. It was very tense. I think it's the best way to describe it. But again, that's not what we wanted, but it was an offshoot of making sure that we reached those most deprived, most marginalised communities within Belfast in particular. Anybody could have a football tournament. What makes Kickoff at 3 different is how we target and how we actually make sure that we hit the right communities to make sure that there's lasting outcomes. It's not just about that photo opportunity with football. That ended up was our first tournament. Went really well. Unfortunately, we didn't get the funding together that year to bring the winning team over. That was one of the big regrets we had. But continued the good work, and the next year we were able to bring the winning team over from that tournament. Now this year in 2019, which was a team from East Timor. That team, I travelled with them, and again for that team it was quite empowering because they had never actually spoken to a police officer, and it took them a while to actually realise I was, being honest. They were really surprised. They hadn't seen me in uniform for one. I was like, well, I'm not going to travel down to Dublin and fly from Dublin in uniform, and I wasn't lecturing them. Was really the big thing. Their perception of the police is that we come along whenever there's something bad, our interactions are negative, and they were really surprised that I was laughing and joking and keeping them going, just like one of their friends. That really was the continuation the whole way through the day. Well behaved lot as well. I mean, like, they were as polite as I could ever imagine. You know, 10, 15 to 17 year olds coming over with us. I was by myself along with 2 coaches, so I was prepared for just about anything. Just stopped short of leaving the baton at home, but made sure that I was in a position that I could actually speak to them, but didn't need to. Brought them to London. They got them play against people that looked like them really, which made them feel a bit more reassured. And then we brought them back home. Some of those relationships are still lasting. They still text me. One of them actually come to the Northern Ireland Human Rights and Sports Forum to chat about his experiences with me. So as I said, a big thing for us is the lasting outcomes. What's happened now as well is the Irish Football Association have been brilliant with us. They literally supported us in both events right from the outset. Mark Dennison in particular, the Irish FA, has been amazing. He's helped me something shocking, being honest. You know, from organising the events, getting the teams together, the running of the day, the footballs, bibs, referees, nothing's been too much bother for them. And through my national contacts then, we managed to speak to the Rio Ferdinand Foundation. They've seen the good work that was going on, and they have now come on board and are happy to try and help in any way they can. That has facilitated discussion between the IFA, PSNI and the Rio Ferdinand Foundation, and at this minute in time we're in the process of designing and trying to get funding together for a 3-year programme which goes into the communities. Kickoff at 3 was brilliant, but what it did, it was still combative. It was still young people playing against other young people that looked different to them and from different backgrounds. So we were very aware that we needed to get it to the point where they were playing together, they were coaching each other, they were getting to know each other by first name, and through that exposure they were going to break down some of the myths and misinformation that's floating about around racism, immigration, and some of the sort of narratives that are floating around there. I'm big for creating counter narratives, and I'm a big believer that most people are decent, and whenever they see somebody from a different background, they see the similarities and not the differences anymore. So that was something I had sort of experienced myself whenever I was younger. I obviously experienced a lot of racism when in my younger life. Sport really stopped that. Having 14 rugby players standing beside you saying, what did you call him? Freshened the mind of a lot of people that wanted to say things to me. So that's really the blueprint that we're working towards. As well as that, as I said, it's about lasting outcomes as well. The problem with some of the young people that are involved in stuff, they've no opportunities, they've no outlook other than what's beyond the end of their street. And a lot of the kids didn't have the opportunity to travel to London. Having that potential to bring them across was a really big key for them. Not really, some of them hadn't passports even, so they had to go and sort out that, which was really key. But what I wanted to do along with the IFA and the Rio Ferdinand Foundation was give them opportunities. So through this programme, what the plan is and what we're currently building towards is creating Number of training camps, number of workshops as well. These workshops will give them life skills that may be around mental resilience, financial planning, and other skills around football. The IFA very kindly offered to include refereeing and coaching qualifications. The Rio Ferdinand Foundation are going to do a lot of the leadership, peer mentoring kind of work. And the long-term aspect or aspiration for ourselves is to create a programme that at the end of it, these young people, particularly from an ethnic minority in Belfast, become coaches with the IFA. The long-term bit is to send these young people into the communities that we were policing, not as ethnic minority coaches, but as coaches for the IFA, and normalise that look. Was one of our key bits. As well as that, we're going to do some apprenticeships and some volunteering aspects around some of the clubs. We need to get some of the clubs on board. Some of the issues that the ethnic minority community said was that they had no relationships or no pathways into a lot of clubs, and they were looking to do that. So if we get volunteering opportunities, then they'll be the conduit for some of their communities to actually get into the football clubs as well. The Kickoff at 3 is just one-day tournaments set around the UK. Different police forces will take the lead in that. The Rio Ferdinand Foundation had seen what we were doing, and through some of the national relationships I'd formed through the MBPA, I met up with our CEO Gary, who has been brilliant as well. So that then led to a meeting with the IFA. Locally, they have sponsored Kickoff at 3. They've funded it the last year, and they see it as a key way of helping them even engage some of the ethnic minority communities. So it's sort of a crossover of a number of different priorities for all organisations. Kickoff at 3 is fitting in really. It's a driver for that ethnic minority engagement. For us, it's about engaging everybody. You know, it's not just about the ethnic minority communities. That's our focus, because a lot of the time they don't have that feed into a lot of the other traditional organisations. But it's for any community across the board. A lot of it's around deprivation as well. The programme that we're developing with the Rio Ferdinand Foundation is going into South Belfast, so it's any of the community groups in and around there that want to get involved. Definitely get in touch with myself. You can get me through or please email through the Kickoff at 3 website address, and they will put you in contact, and we'll make sure that we have something that we can build on and develop together.